The crystal glass shattered first. Then the man holding it hit the marble floor. Park Ji-hoon, the Lion of Busan, didn't collapse gracefully. His 6'2" frame went rigid, convulsed once, and crashed into the conference table hard enough to split the imported mahogany. Blood sprayed from his mouth, black blood, thick as motor oil, spattering across documents worth millions. The 12 men in suits didn't move. Couldn't move. They'd seen Ji-hoon survive 3 assassination attempts, 2 stabbings, and a car bomb. They'd never seen him fall. Get the doctors. Min-jun, Ji-hoon's head of security, was already on his phone. Now. All of them. Jasmine Chen heard the crash from 3 floors up. She was changing bed sheets in the east wing of the estate, her hands moving on autopilot through a routine she'd perfected over 18 months. The compound was massive, a fortress disguised as a luxury home in the hills outside Busan. 30 rooms, security everywhere, and her, invisible as furniture. The alarm system's medical code shrieked through the speakers. 3 short bursts. That meant the panic room protocol. That meant Park Ji-hoon was dying. She dropped the sheets and ran. By the time Jasmine reached the main level, the conference room looked like a war zone. Ji-hoon lay on the floor, surrounded by his men. His skin had turned gray, the color of week-old corpses. His lips were blue. But it was his eyes that made her stomach drop. They were open, fully conscious, and filled with terror. The first doctor arrived in 8 minutes. Dr. Kim, personal physician to half of Busan's underworld elite. He took one look at Ji-hoon and started barking orders. Atropine, now. His heart rate is 40 and dropping. Get in 4 line, 2 of them. And somebody tell me what he ingested. Nothing. Min-jun's voice was steel. He was drinking water. That's all. Dr. Kim pressed a stethoscope to Ji-hoon's chest. His face went pale. His lungs are filling with fluid. We need to intubate. Jasmine watched from the doorway. She watched them cut open Ji-hoon's shirt, jam needles into his arms, force a tube down his throat. And she watched the black blood continue to seep from his mouth, dripping onto white marble like ink. It's not working. His heart rate is still dropping. That's when Jasmine saw it. The mark on Ji-hoon's neck, just below his left ear. A tiny puncture wound, barely visible, surrounded by skin that had turned the color of rotting plums. Her grandmother's voice echoed across 2 decades. When the flesh turns purple and the blood runs black, that's shadow root poison. 2 drops can kill a man 3 times over. Jasmine's hands went cold. 18 months ago, Jasmine had been desperate. New Orleans had nothing left for her. When the agency offered her a position in South Korea as live-in maid for a wealthy businessman, she'd said yes immediately. She'd learned 3 things quickly. First, Park Ji-hoon wasn't a businessman, he was Busan's most powerful crime lord. Second, asking questions was the fastest way to disappear. Third, if you kept your head down and stayed invisible, you'd survive. She'd been invisible for 18 months. But her grandmother's voice wouldn't let her stay that way now. Miss, you need to leave. Min-jun appeared beside her, a wall of muscle and scar tissue. This area is restricted. That wound on his neck. When did it appear? Min-jun's eyes narrowed. This morning. We thought it was an insect bite. 72 hours. That's how long Shadow Root took to kill. Ji-hoon had maybe 60 hours left. 2 more doctors burst through the door. They converged on Ji-hoon, shouting medical terms Jasmine barely understood. She understood one thing though. They were making it worse. We need to flush his system. Start dialysis immediately. They wheeled in machines. Connected Ji-hoon to tubes and monitors. The black liquid seeping from his mouth didn't stop. The toxin isn't in his bloodstream. It's in his tissue. Then massive doses of antibiotics. Everything we have. Jasmine wanted to scream. Shadow Root wasn't bacteria. Every antibiotic they pumped into Ji-hoon would accelerate the spread. By tomorrow, his organs would be mush. By midnight, 7 doctors filled the house. They pumped Ji-hoon full of chelating agents, antivenom, experimental drugs. Nothing worked. Jasmine cleaned around them, invisible. The purple stain had reached his collarbone. By morning, it would reach his heart. At 2 a.m., Jasmine stood in the kitchen, staring at her reflection. Her grandmother looked back at her. Same dark eyes, same hands that knew how to heal. Her grandmother had been a root worker in the 9th ward. She'd taught Jasmine everything. Which leaves stopped fever. Which roots drew out poison. Shadow root poison has one cure, her grandmother had said. The silver leaf. Crush it fresh, apply it to the wound. It'll draw the poison out or kill trying. Silver leaf didn't grow in Korea. It was from Louisiana swamps, from West African forests. Except Jasmine had seen it. 3 months ago, in the abandoned greenhouse on the estate grounds. Among the dead flowers, one plant had survived. She'd recognized the silver veins immediately. Jasmine made her decision. The greenhouse was at the far end of the property, hidden behind bamboo. She moved through darkness like a ghost, avoiding security cameras she'd memorized over 18 months. Inside, moonlight filtered through dirty glass. There, in the back corner, the silver leaf plant grew wild and strong. Jasmine selected 3 leaves and cut them free. When she held them up to moonlight, the silver veins glowed. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Jasmine ducked behind broken pots. A young guard swept his light across the greenhouse, paused, moved on. She slipped back to the main house and her small room on the 4th floor. Her hands shook as she pulled out the mortar and pestle. Crushing the leaves required precision. Her grandmother had made her practice until she could do it with her eyes closed. The silver leaf broke down into paste that glowed faintly green. The smell was sharp, clean, like rain on stone. Jasmine added water drops, ground again. Perfect. She scraped the paste into a glass jar. Then she sat on her bed and stared at it. Downstairs, Park Ji-hoon was dying. 7 doctors had given up. And she, Jasmine Chen, a maid with no credentials and no power, held his life in a jar. She checked her watch. 3:47 a.m. The shift change happened at 4 a.m. A window of opportunity. Jasmine tucked the jar into her apron pocket and opened her door. Time to become visible. If you're loving this story, tap subscribe so you can discover more incredible tales like this. She was passing the 2nd floor study when she heard the voice. Park Sungmin, Ji-hoon's younger brother. I'm telling you, he'll be dead by morning, Sungmin said in Korean. The poison is untraceable. Even an autopsy will find nothing but organ failure. Jasmine pressed herself against the wall. No, the doctors don't know. They've tried everything, exactly as planned. The shadow root is working perfectly. I administered it myself 3 days ago while he was sleeping. Jasmine's blood went ice cold. This was family. The estate is mine now. Everything. And that doctor causing problems? Consider him handled. Sungmin emerged from the study, his face composed in perfect grief. Jasmine hid in a cleaning closet, then kept moving. Sungmin had poisoned his own brother. If she saved Ji-hoon now, she wasn't just saving a life. She was starting a war. She thought about her grandmother's oath. We heal who needs healing. We choose based on who's dying and whether we can stop it. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. 2 guards stood outside the conference room. I need to speak with Min-jun, Jasmine said. About what I saw. Minutes later, she stood in Min-jun's office. Park Sungmin poisoned his brother, she said. I heard him on the phone. Shadow root poison. Doctors paid to fail. Min-jun studied her. Why tell me? Because I can save him. His eyebrows rose. You. Jasmine pulled out the jar. This is silver leaf paste. The only thing that can draw out shadow root poison. If you're wrong, I'll kill you myself. If I'm wrong, he's dead anyway. Min-jun stood. I'll get you in. One wrong move and it's over. The smell hit her first when they entered. Sweet and rotten. Death had a scent. Dr. Kim looked up. What's she doing here? She's identified what's killing him, Min-jun said flatly, hand on his sidearm. She's going to do her work. You're going to watch. This is insane. He's already dying. You said so yourself. Now step aside. Dr. Kim stepped aside. Jasmine approached Ji-hoon. His skin was translucent, veins visible like dark rivers. The purple stain covered his entire chest, creeping toward his face. She leaned close. Mr. Park, my name is Jasmine. I know what's killing you. This is going to hurt. Hold on. No response. She found the wound below his ear. Purple spreading like a star going supernova. Jasmine unscrewed the jar. The sharp smell of silver leaf cut through the death rot. She pressed the paste directly into the wound. The reaction was instantaneous and violent. Ji-hoon's body went rigid. His back arched, muscles locked, and a sound came out of him that wasn't quite a scream. Something deeper. Something primal. Get her away from him. Dr. Kim lunged, but Min-jun blocked him. Wait. The paste bubbled, producing white foam that hissed like grease on a pan. The smell changed to something sharp and metallic. And the purple stain began to move. Not spreading. Receding. The dark veins pulled back like living things retreating from light. Purple faded to lavender, then pink, then normal skin tone. Ji-hoon's eyes snapped fully open. Clear and aware. Don't talk, Jasmine said softly. Let it work. The foam turned gray, then black as the poison collected. The monitors told the story. Heart rate climbing. Blood pressure rising. Park Ji-hoon was coming back from the dead. Dr. Kim stared, tablet forgotten. That's not possible. After 5 minutes, Jasmine removed her hand. The wound was clean, the flesh pink and healthy. The purple stain had vanished completely. We should remove the tube. He's breathing on his own now. Dr. Kim moved on autopilot, removing the intubation tube. Ji-hoon coughed, then drew in a deep breath. Water, he rasped. Min-jun was there with a cup. Ji-hoon drank, then looked at Jasmine. Who are you? Jasmine Chen. I clean your house. You just saved my life. Yes, sir. Ji-hoon tried to sit up. Min-jun helped him, propping pillows behind his back. The transformation was remarkable. 20 minutes ago, he'd been corpse-gray and dying. Now color was returning to his face, strength returning to his limbs. What was it? Ji-hoon's voice was stronger now. What was killing me? Shadow root poison. Applied to your neck 3 days ago while you were sleeping. Ji-hoon's hand went to the wound below his ear. How do you know that? Jasmine took a breath. Because I heard your brother on the phone 20 minutes ago, bragging about it. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Min-jun's hand went to his gun. Dr. Kim suddenly looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. And Ji-hoon's face went from grateful to absolutely murderous in the space of a heartbeat. Explain, he said quietly. Jasmine told him everything. The overheard phone call, Sungmin's plan, the deal with another family, the doctors being paid to fail. She didn't embellish. Didn't need to. The facts were damning enough. When she finished, Ji-hoon was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Dr. Kim. Is this true? Were you paid to let me die? Dr. Kim's face had gone white. I don't. Answer the question. I received a call, Dr. Kim said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Sungmin said, he said you wanted me to handle your care personally. To keep outside specialists away. To avoid media attention. He said it was your wish. And the treatment? I followed standard protocols. If they weren't working, I assumed. He trailed off, realizing how weak it sounded. You assumed nothing, Ji-hoon said coldly. You were told to fail, and you did. How much did he pay you? Dr. Kim didn't answer. Didn't need to. The guilt was written across his face. Ji-hoon turned to Min-jun. Where is my brother? Last I saw, he was in the south wing. Pretending to grieve. Bring him here. And Dr. Kim doesn't leave this room. Ji-hoon's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Not until I decide what to do with him. Min-jun left. Dr. Kim stood frozen, probably calculating whether he could run fast enough to reach the door. Jasmine almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Ji-hoon swung his legs off the table, testing his strength. He was weak, but functional. Alive. He caught Jasmine watching him. Why did you save me? He asked. You know what I am. What I do. Jasmine met his eyes. I knew you were dying. I knew I could stop it. That was enough. Most people would have let me die. Especially after hearing about the poison. I'm not most people. Something like respect flickered across Ji-hoon's face. No, he said quietly. You're not. The door opened. Min-jun returned with Sungmin between two guards. Sungmin's face was a perfect mask of concern until he saw his brother sitting up, awake, alive. Then the mask cracked. Ji-hoon, Sungmin breathed. You're awake. That's incredible. The doctors said. The doctors were wrong. Ji-hoon's voice was conversational, almost friendly. It was terrifying. Come closer, brother. I want to talk to you. Sungmin approached cautiously. His eyes darted from Ji-hoon to Jasmine to the guards. Calculating. Planning. Looking for exits. I'm so relieved, Sungmin said. We thought we'd lost you. The specialist said there was nothing more they could do. Because you paid them to fail. Sungmin froze. What? Shadow root poison, Ji-hoon continued, still in that casual tone. Applied 3 days ago while I slept. Very clever. Untraceable, slow-acting, painful. Was that your idea or theirs? I don't know what you're. I heard you on the phone. Jasmine's voice cut through his denial. Second floor study, 50 minutes ago. You were discussing the estate. How it would be yours. The deal with the other family. Sungmin's face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Shock, fear, calculation, and finally, cold fury. You. He turned on Jasmine. You stupid. Min-jun moved. One moment he was by the door, the next he had Sungmin's arm twisted behind his back, forcing him to his knees. Finish that sentence, Min-jun said pleasantly. I dare you. Ji-hoon stood, slightly unsteady but upright. He walked to where his brother knelt and looked down at him. 3 days, Ji-hoon said softly. That's how long you let me suffer. How long you watched me dying and said nothing. How long you pretended to grieve while planning my funeral. You don't understand, Sungmin said, and now his voice was desperate. You never understood. Everything was always for you. The business, the respect, the power. What did I get? Nothing. I'm your brother, and I was treated like an errand boy. So you tried to kill me. I tried to take what should have been shared. Sungmin's composure cracked completely. 30 years, Ji-hoon. 30 years of living in your shadow. Of watching you get everything while I got scraps. I deserved more. You deserved what you earned, Ji-hoon said coldly. And what you earned is this. He nodded to Min-jun. Wait, Sungmin said, eyes widening. Wait, we can talk about this. We're family. We can. We were family. You ended that when you put poison in my neck. Please. Sung-min was begging now, all pretense gone. Please, I'll leave. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Just let me. Take him to the south building, Ji-hoon said to Min-jun. He doesn't leave. He doesn't make calls. He doesn't speak to anyone except me. Understood. Understood. They dragged Sung-min out. His protests echoed down the hallway, growing fainter until they disappeared entirely. The room fell silent except for the quiet beeping of medical equipment. Ji-hoon turned back to Jasmine. You could have stayed silent. Could have let this play out. Why didn't you? Because it was wrong. I've done worse things than he planned. Far worse. That's between you and whoever judges such things. All I knew was you were dying and I could stop it. Ji-hoon studied her for a long moment. Then he looked at Dr. Kim, who'd been standing frozen in the corner throughout the entire confrontation. You, Ji-hoon said. You're going to write down everything. Every conversation with Sung-min. Every instruction. Every payment. You'll sign it, and then you'll disappear from my city. If I ever see you again, if I even hear your name again, you'll wish Sung-min had succeeded. Dr. Kim nodded frantically. Yes. Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for. Get out. Dr. Kim fled. Ji-hoon sat back down on the table, suddenly looking exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind the reality of a body that had been dying 12 hours ago. I need to rest, he said. But first, I need to know something. He looked at Jasmine. That medicine you used. Can you make more? If I have the plant, yes. And you know other treatments? Other cures? My grandmother taught me traditional medicine. Plants, roots, techniques that predate modern hospitals. It's not magic, but it works. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. I'm going to sleep now. When I wake up, we're going to have a conversation about your future. Because as of tonight, you're not cleaning houses anymore. Min-jun returned 20 minutes later. Sung-min is secured. I've got 4 men on him. He's not going anywhere. Good. Ji-hoon was lying back now, but his eyes were sharp. Check his phone records. I want to know who he was talking to, which family he made a deal with, and I want their names by morning. Already on it. Jasmine stood by the window, watching the sun start to rise over the estate. The whole night felt surreal. 18 hours ago, she'd been changing bedsheets. Now she'd saved a crime lord's life and exposed a conspiracy. Miss Chen, Ji-hoon said. You're free to go rest. But don't leave the estate. We'll talk soon. It wasn't a request. Jasmine nodded and headed for the door. And Miss Chen? Ji-hoon's voice stopped her. Thank you. Truly. She looked back at him. The Lion of Busan, still pale, still weak, but alive. You're welcome. Her room felt different when she returned to it. Smaller somehow. Like she'd outgrown it in a single night. She sat on her bed and stared at the empty jar that had held the silver leaf paste. One leaf had saved a life. One decision had changed everything. Jasmine lay back and closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Her mind kept replaying the night. The poison drawing out. Ji-hoon's eyes opening. Sung-min's face when he realized he'd failed. At 7 a.m., someone knocked on her door. One of the house staff, young woman named Hyejin. Mr. Park wants to see you, Hyejin said in Korean. In his private office. Jasmine washed her face, changed into clean clothes, and followed Hyejin through the estate. Servants watched her pass with new expressions. Word had spread. The invisible maid wasn't invisible anymore. Ji-hoon's office was on the top floor, a massive room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Busan. He was dressed now, looking more like himself. Still pale, but strong enough to stand. Sit, he said, gesturing to a chair. Jasmine sat. I've made some decisions, Ji-hoon began. First, my brother will be dealt with. Quietly. The families he tried to make deals with will be reminded why betraying me is fatal. And Dr. Kim will discover that reputation dies faster than bodies. He paused. Second, you. I'm told you've been working here for 18 months. Minimum wage, shared bathroom, treated like furniture. That ends today. Sir, I don't need. I'm not finished. His voice was firm but not unkind. You saved my life using knowledge that apparently nobody else in this country possesses. That makes you valuable. Extremely valuable. So here's what's going to happen. He walked to his desk and pulled out a folder. This is a contract. You'll be retained as my personal medical consultant. Salary 10 times what you're making now. Private quarters in the main house. Full access to establish whatever facilities you need for your work. In exchange, you keep me alive and help me understand this traditional medicine you practice. Jasmine stared at the folder. Why? Because modern medicine failed me. Because 7 doctors with fancy degrees let me die while a maid with plant knowledge saved me. Because I'm not stupid enough to let that knowledge walk away. I'm not a doctor. I have no credentials, no. You have results. That's better than credentials. Ji-hoon leaned forward. I'm offering you a position where you can actually use what your grandmother taught you. Where you won't be invisible. Where your knowledge matters. Are you interested? Jasmine thought about her grandmother, about 18 months of invisibility, about the silver leaf growing in an abandoned greenhouse. Yes, she said. I'm interested. Good. Ji-hoon smiled, and it was genuine. Welcome to your new life, Miss Chen. 3 days later, Park Sung-min disappeared. The official story was that he'd left the country. People who knew better didn't ask questions. In Busan's underworld, some disappearances were permanent, and this was one of them. Dr. Kim was found working at a rural clinic in Jeju Island 6 weeks later. His sole practice had closed. His reputation destroyed. His medical license under review. He'd live, but his career was dead. The family that had made a deal with Sung-min sent a formal apology and a significant financial gesture. Ji-hoon accepted both. For now. Min-jun told Jasmine that 3 of their senior members had accidents shortly after. The message was received. Jasmine's transformation happened faster than she'd expected. Her tiny room became a suite in the main house, twice the size of her old apartment in New Orleans. The abandoned greenhouse was restored, cleaned, filled with plants she ordered from around the world. Silver leaf, yes, but also dozens of others. Herbs from Africa, roots from South America, flowers from Southeast Asia. She hired assistants. Young people from the local university, biology students curious about traditional medicine. She taught them what her grandmother had taught her. Not to replace modern medicine, but to complement it. To fill the gaps where antibiotics failed and surgery couldn't reach. Word spread. Quietly at first, then louder. People in Ji-hoon's organization who'd written off traditional medicine started asking questions. A lieutenant with chronic pain that doctors couldn't solve found relief in a root tea Jasmine prepared. A businessman with a mystery rash that had resisted every treatment cleared up after 3 applications of a plant paste. Jasmine wasn't replacing hospitals. She was providing alternatives when hospitals failed. 6 weeks after saving Ji-hoon's life, she was summoned to his office again. I have a problem, he said without preamble. And I think you can solve it. What kind of problem? One of my business partners in Daegu. His daughter is sick. 12 years old. The hospitals can't figure out what's wrong. She's been declining for 3 months. He paused. Her father is important to me. If his daughter dies, our relationship dies with it. And I can't afford that right now. What are her symptoms? Ji-hoon slid a folder across the desk. Medical records, test results, photographs. Jasmine studied them carefully. A young girl with dark circles under her eyes, skin rashes, inexplicable fatigue. The doctors think it's an autoimmune disorder, Ji-hoon said. But the treatments aren't working. Jasmine looked at the photos again. At the specific pattern of the rashes. At the test results showing elevated but not critical numbers. At the timeline of the illness. It's not autoimmune, she said slowly. It's environmental. Something in her environment is poisoning her slowly. Like what? I'd need to see her. See where she lives. But this pattern. Jasmine tapped the photo. This looks like slow metal toxicity. Something she's being exposed to daily. Ji-hoon considered this. Can you fix it? If I can find the source, yes. Then you're going to Daegu tomorrow. Min-jun will accompany you. Whatever you need, you'll have. The trip to Daegu was Jasmine's first time leaving the Busan estate since saving Ji-hoon's life. The businessman's home was massive, modern, filled with expensive art and terrified parents. The girl, Ji-woo, lay in bed looking like a ghost. The same gray skin Jasmine remembered seeing on Ji-hoon. The same exhausted eyes. Jasmine spent 3 hours examining everything. Not just the girl, but her room. Her clothes. Her toys. Her school supplies. She took samples of water, dust, fabric. She found it in the imported wallpaper. Victorian-era design, beautiful and deadly. The pigments contained arsenic compounds, slowly releasing toxins into the air. Ji-woo had been breathing poison for months. Remove all the wallpaper, Jasmine told the parents. Every room she uses. Replace it with something modern and safe. Then I'll give her a treatment to help her body clear the accumulated toxins. You're sure? The father asked. I'm sure. They stripped the wallpaper that afternoon. Jasmine prepared a chelation remedy using activated charcoal and specific plant compounds her grandmother had used for metal poisoning. She stayed 3 days, monitoring Ji-woo's progress. By the 3rd day, color was returning to the girl's skin. By the end of the week, she was eating normally. 2 weeks later, she was back in school. The businessman sent Ji-hoon a gift worth more than Jasmine had made in her entire life. Along with a note, your doctor saved my daughter. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, it's yours. Ji-hoon showed Jasmine the note. You're building me alliances I didn't know I needed. I'm just doing what I know how to do. Keep doing it. More cases followed. A gang member with a mysterious infection. An accountant with unexplained seizures. A restaurateur whose whole family was sick. Each time, Jasmine approached it the way her grandmother had taught her. Observe. Listen. Think beyond the obvious. She didn't save everyone. Some problems were beyond her knowledge. Some patients needed surgery or intensive Western medicine. But when modern medicine failed, when doctors shrugged and said, "I don't know," Jasmine often did know. 3 months after the night that changed everything, Jasmine stood in her greenhouse surrounded by life. Plants from 6 continents grew in careful arrangements. The silver leaf had multiplied, thriving in the controlled environment. She'd sent cuttings to 3 research universities, with instructions on cultivation. Traditional knowledge shouldn't die with her grandmother's generation. It should grow, spread, teach. Ji-hoon visited her there sometimes. He was fully recovered now, the only reminder of his poisoning a small scar below his ear. He'd had it tattooed over with a lotus flower. A symbol of rebirth. "I have a proposition," he said one afternoon, watching her work. "Another patient? A facility. I want to build a proper medical research center. Traditional and modern medicine working together. You'd run it. Full funding, whatever you need." Jasmine looked up from the seedlings she was transplanting. "Why?" "Because you proved something important. That knowledge doesn't need credentials to be valid. That sometimes the answer isn't in the textbook, it's in the forest." He paused. "And because I was saved by a tradition that most people dismiss as superstition. If it can save me, it can save others." "It's not a magic cure-all," Jasmine warned. "Traditional medicine has limits. It works alongside modern treatment, not instead of it." "I know. That's why I want you to build something that combines both. Something that doesn't dismiss either approach." Jasmine considered this. 3 months ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was being offered the chance to build something permanent. Something that honored her grandmother's knowledge while pushing it forward into the future. "I'll need complete autonomy," she said. "No interference in how I run it or who I treat." Done. And we treat people regardless of their ability to pay. Rich, poor, connected or not. Done. And when someone comes to us after modern medicine has failed, we don't judge them for trying. We just try to help. Ji-hoon smiled. Done. Anything else? One more thing. Jasmine met his eyes. We name it after my grandmother. The Helenshin Center for Integrated Medicine. Perfect. They shook hands among the plants, sunlight streaming through the greenhouse glass. The Lion of Busan and the woman who'd saved him with a single leaf, building something neither of them could have imagined 6 months ago. 6 months after that night, the Helenshin Center opened in a renovated building in central Busan. Modern medical equipment on one floor, Jasmine's traditional medicine lab on another. Doctors trained in Western medicine working alongside herbalists and traditional practitioners. The skeptics said it wouldn't work. That you couldn't mix 2 different medical philosophies. That it was dangerous to give legitimacy to folk remedies. The results spoke for themselves. One afternoon, Min-jun entered Jasmine's office with a file. New patient. The hospitals can't figure out what's wrong with him. Neurological symptoms, no clear diagnosis. Jasmine took the file. Studied the symptoms. The pattern looked familiar. Not exactly like anything she'd seen before, but close to something her grandmother had described once. Bring him in tomorrow, she said. I want to run some tests. And get me soil samples from where he lives and works. You think it's environmental again? I think it's always worth checking what seems obvious first. She smiled. My grandmother used to say that 90% of mysterious illnesses are just the environment trying to kill you slowly. Min-jun laughed. I'll get the samples. As he left, Jasmine turned back to her desk. Case files covered every surface. People who needed help. People who'd fallen through the cracks of modern medicine and ended up here, at the center that combined old wisdom with new technology. She thought about the long journey from New Orleans to Busan. From invisible maid to medical director. From her grandmother's kitchen to this modern facility. The silver leaf plant sat on her windowsill now, thriving in a ceramic pot. She touched its leaves gently, feeling the silver veins under her fingertips. We did it, Grandma, she whispered. Your knowledge didn't die. It grew. Her phone buzzed. Ji-hoon, asking if she was free for dinner. They'd become friends over the months, an unlikely partnership born from poison and plant medicine. She texted back that she'd be there in an hour. As she gathered her things to leave, Jasmine caught her reflection in the window. A woman who'd been invisible for so long, now seen. Not because she'd demanded attention, but because she'd done what needed doing when everyone else had given up. Sometimes the most powerful medicine came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes a single leaf was enough to change everything. And sometimes, being invisible for a while taught you exactly how to be seen when it mattered most. She turned off the lights and headed out, ready for whatever came next. Because in this new life, anything was possible.